Hello.
Hello.
We are back again.
Yes, we are.
I see we already have some 07s and some beavers in chat. Great.
This is the Island Boys podcast, a Jeffrey Epstein defense podcast. Later, we're going to have Alan Dershowitz on. He's going to explain the whole thing to us.
It'll be totally fine.
I'm just kidding. This is the Library of Mass Destruction.
It is. And we are continuing our reading of Aberration in the Heartland of the Real, Wendy Painting's fantastic and completely exhaustive,
authoritative,
seminal, like the Black Indians of Florida, the seminal work on the Oklahoma City bombing perpetrated allegedly by Timothy
and
McVeigh.
Really, if you believe court history,
if you believe everything you read. Hudson, do you have anything before we just dive right in? We just drive right in.
Yeah, no, we're just renting the truck and just getting on the road.
All right.
And where we go, only the government knows.
So this section, if you couldn't tell from the title, is essentially the earlier life and history of Timothy McVeigh.
An early life check on Timothy McVeigh.
Early life, that he passes. It's not every single time, but we'll get into it. On becoming we are 4 episodes in, and this is chapter 1, by the way. We finally got through the preambles.
Yes, and the preamble is definitely worth a listen. You go back and to our backlog, listen to the first 3 episodes, and then you'll be all caught up. Definitely worth it.
On an increasing number of platforms now. Soon we will be on Apple Podcasts until they ban us for our content.
I can't imagine why we'd ever get banned.
I cannot. I too have a terrible imagination. All right, let's get into it. On Becoming John Rambo, an overview of American madness. Rampage, verb. A course of violent, riotous, or reckless action or behavior. Noun, violent behavior that is reckless, uncontrolled, or destructive. The amok man is patently out of his mind, an automaton mentioned, oblivious to his surroundings and unreachable by appeals or threats. But his rampage is preceded by lengthy brooding over failure and is carefully planned as a means of deliverance from an unbearable situation. Steven Pinker, How the Mind Works.
We gotta get him on Island Boys.
Oh God, yeah. Well, he was on the island. That's
big friend of old Jeff.
Yep. His was an impenetrable darkness. I look at him as you peer down at a man who is lying at the bottom of a precipice where the sun never shines. Charles Marlowe, protagonist in Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. 1899. Many Conrad stands among our guys.
Conrad is. I did a whole episode on Heart of Darkness on my other podcast, Cannon Fodder, which you guys should definitely check out. And Conrad, being a Polish immigrant to England when that wasn't really a thing yet, he has an exceptional understanding of the Anglo mind, especially when it comes to empire.
As only someone of outsider status looking in as through a fishbowl. This is the way the world ends, not with a bang but a whimper. T.S. Eliot, The Hollow Man, 1925. The many McVeighs. Much has been written about Lee Harvey Oswald, who, according to the well-known narrative on November 22nd, 1963, at the age of 24, fired 3 shots from the 6th story of the Texas School Book Depository in Dallas, wounding Texas Governor John Connally and killing President John F. Kennedy, after which he escaped the scene via city bus, taxi, and on foot, headed to a movie theater, and shot and killed Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit along the way. After a booth attendant called the police to report that a man had entered the theater without buying a ticket, the police arrived and arrested Oswald. Depending on the account, Oswald either willingly submitted to police or put up a struggle and had to be subdued. Either way, he was charged with the murders of Kennedy and Tippit, but adamantly denied involvement in either of the deaths. During a transfer from the Dallas police headquarters to a county jail, he proclaimed to journalists and television crews, "I didn't shoot anybody. I'm just a patsy." 2 days later, Oswald himself was shot and killed on live television by nightclub owner and all-around swell guy, Jack Ruby. This much we think we know.
When she writes it out like that, it really does sound so ridiculous. And it's amazing to me that a majority of the American people just went along with that narrative.
I feel like the doubts about the Kennedy assassination have been long, are pretty long standing.
Oh no, I get that. I guess it's more just that nothing was done about it, except for Kevin.
Well, he got
Costner.
Shot in the stomach by Jack Ruby.
Yeah, I mean, except for Kevin Costner, nobody else in America really questioned the narrative.
Well, we can talk about that in some other reading, but, well, actually, probably just in a few paragraphs here. But Oswald's brief life was marked by complexity and contradiction. His father died before he was born, leaving his mother to raise him and his siblings. His mother moved often from Louisiana to Texas to New York, and by the time he graduated high school, Oswald had attended 12 different schools. Although he read voraciously and had a high IQ, he had great difficulty writing and spelling. Those who knew him at a young age described him as introverted, moody, and argumentative. When he was arrested for repeated truancy in the 7th grade, the juvenile psychiatrist who evaluated him reported that Oswald was absorbed within a vivid fantasy life, turning around the topics of omnipotence and power, through which he tries to compensate for his present shortcomings and frustrations. By 15 years old, he was a self-proclaimed socialist and Marxist. The next year, he joined the Civil Air Patrol in New Orleans, a right-leaning organization, but surely one perceived as patriotic. All of
That's
this
where he met
also
David
hear
Ferry.
about, yes, for the first of many times. All of these things and more you can hear about on the authoritative book on Lee Harvey Oswald's life, Don DeLillo's fictionalized biography, Libra,
which the title of Aberration in the Heartland of the Real comes from. So
yes.
a lot of overlapping and weaving. We're doing the weave.
Yeah, and if you want to hear the two of us talk about it, you can go over to Cannon Fodder and watch that or listen to that episode. But you should read it. At 17, Oswald quit school and joined the U.S. Marine Corps because, according to his older brother, he hoped to get out and under the yoke of oppression of our mother. While in the Marines, he was trained as a radar operator, obtained a security clearance, qualified as a sharpshooter, and took, but did poorly on, a Russian language exam. Although one of his commanding officers described him as very competent crew chief and brighter than most people, Oswald expressed pro-Soviet sentiments and on a number of occasions was court-martialed. Once for accidentally shooting himself in the elbow with a handgun he was not authorized to possess, and another time for fighting with a sergeant. His various court-martials led to imprisonment and demotion.
And if it wasn't bad enough, apparently his Russian sounded like Yakov Smirnov.
Yes. Yeah, he sounded ridiculous. It's probably because he was taught by an old Japanese lady. At the age of 20, Oswald defected to the Soviet Union, where he lived for 3 years and met and married his wife, Marina, the long-suffering Marina, before returning to the U.S., claiming he became disillusioned with life in the USSR. In March 1963, Oswald allegedly purchased a rifle and revolver through the mail, using the alias A. Hidell, and purportedly used the revolver in an attempt to shoot U.S. Major General Edwin Walker, a rabid right-wing anti-communist segregationist.
Based.
One of our guys. The next month, he moved to New Orleans, where he began propagating pro-Castro literature, but paradoxically associated with a number of notable right-wing individuals who had very rabid and vocal anti-communist and anti-Castro political beliefs. These individuals included, among others, former FBI agent Guy Bannister, CIA asset David Ferry, and local businessman Clay Shaw.
Hey, he wasn't just a CIA asset. He was also a homosexual pedophile.
He sure was. Yeah.
And he had alopecia.
David Ferry, played by Joe
Pesci.
Joe Pesci, of course. Yeah, I wanted to say Danny DeVito, but
Oh, that
it
would have been
been
just
too
as good.
silly. Yeah, too silly. I just want to be clean. In New Orleans, Oswald briefly worked at a coffee company until July 1963. As with all socialist disaffected people, he was a barista. So I just want to. This is a real trend. Watch out if someone gives you coffee. Watch out.
Yeah,
That's
and
why you
never
always
tip them.
That's why you always hit no tip.
Yep, you spin the iPad around, you look them right in the eye, and you say no.
Yep.
And then
in New Orleans, when he was fired for reading rifle and hunting magazines while on the job and for loitering in general. That September, you could probably tip the one who's reading rifle magazines while waiting to make your latte.
How do you get fired for loitering at your job?
You're just not fucking
just
working.
doing anything, you're just standing there.
Yeah, like fucking asshole. Like, give me my goddamn coffee, stupid commie. I don't know, whatever. In September, he's reported to have visited the Cuban embassy in Mexico, seeking a visa that would allow entry into Cuba, where he planned to stay before traveling on to the Soviet Union. Facing a delay in processing the visa, Oswald headed to Dallas, where he rented a room under the name O.H. Oswald, had some contact with FBI agents, and got a job at the Texas School Book Depository. Despite numerous official and citizen investigations and the many theories surrounding it, the JFK assassination and Oswald's subsequent murder ushered in not only an era of televised death spectacles via politically motivated assassinations and random public shootings with no apparent political motivation, committed by lone nuts, but also the age of rapidly proliferating conspiracy theories, the formation of conspiracy cultures, and a deep cynicism and distrust in the official stories about any one of these incidents, and the creation of alternate counter-narratives, which is why we're all here.
We are all here to create... Everybody comment your favorite alternative narrative in the chat.
Yes, alternative narratives in the chat.
And we'll read the best ones.
We'll read the best ones, unless Gabe writes it. Let's see. Within a few years of Oswald's appearance in the public image, a number of other equally frustrated and listless lone nuts emerged. These include Nutcranker out how long? These included 25-year-old Charles Whitman, who in August 1966 killed his wife and mother in their home, and then commenced a sniping spree from a tower at the University of Texas, killing 16 people and wounding 32 others before being shot and killed by an Austin police officer. Also, Austin police officer, hell of a fucking shot, by the way, because he shot into the bell tower. Yep. Whitman, like Oswald, reportedly grew up in a physically and psychologically abusive home and went on to join the U.S. Marine Corps. 2 years later, in April 1968, James Earl Ray allegedly assassinated Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and a little over 2 months after that, in July 1968, 24-year-old Sirhan Sirhan, the guy so nice we named him twice, purportedly killed presidential nominee Robert F. Kennedy Sr. And James Earl Ray. You have
to put senior these days.
Yes, exactly.
He's eligible for parole.
Sirhan Sirhan?
Mm-hmm.
Nah.
MK Ultra too.
Leave him in there. Leave him in there, or he's got to go back.
I'm certain that he did not know what he was doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. But he is a Sirhan Sirhan, and therefore can stay in jail. Let's see. And also, James Earl Ray definitely did not fucking do that. Not even MLK's family thinks that he was assassinated by James Earl Ray.
He doesn't have hands. They cut off his hands at age 5. How did he shoot the rifle?
Hell of a shot with his
tongue.
Anyway, Arthur Bremer, included among this growing family of lone nuts, was 22-year-old Arthur Bremer, whose attempt to assassinate Democratic presidential candidate George Wallace with a .38 revolver during a campaign rally left Wallace paralyzed from the waist down and critically wounded 3 others. Members of the crowd tackled Bremer, and he was arrested. Man, think about throwing your life away trying to kill a loser like George Wallace. Anyway, Bremer grew up in an abusive and highly dysfunctional home. He later explained that as a child, I would escape my ugly reality by pretending that I was living with a television family, and there was no yelling at home and no one to hit me. Although Bremer was gifted with a high IQ, he consistently received low grades and had trouble making friends and found school to be a lonely and torturous experience filled with bullies who scorned and ridiculed him, just like I did. After graduating high school, he enrolled in college, where he was remembered as a strange, aloof, and argumentative fellow who rarely talked to anybody. Bremer
Wait, Gabe shot George Wallace?
Gabe shot George Wallace. Yeah. Bremer dropped out after one semester and got there are two M's in Bremer here. Dropped out after one semester and got a job as a busboy. But after customers complained about his bizarre mannerisms, including talking to himself out loud, he was demoted. How do you get demoted from busboy?
Yeah, dishwasher. You can talk to yourself as a dishwasher.
I mean, I don't know. Dishwasher's got to be better than busboy.
Uh-huh.
When he demanded his demotion be reversed, an evaluator reported that Bremer, although a conscientious worker, bordered on the paranoid. He quit his job and for the next few years worked as an elementary worker. Elementary school. Elementary school janitor, which is where you get if you get demoted from a high school, or if you get demoted from a busboy, you become a high school janitor. They make you work with children if you're demoted for being weird. During which time he became increasingly suicidal. In October 1971, Bremer was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon and was pronounced mentally ill by a court-appointed psychiatrist. Allegedly. Soon after, Bremer purchased a .38 revolver. Also, not a great gun, to be honest. 38 sucks. On March 2nd, 1972, Bremer wrote in his diary, "It is my personal plan to assassinate by pistol either Richard Nixon or George Wallace."
How do you write that sentence? Pistols at dawn.
Yeah, just whoever I can get.
Whoever happens to be coming through town first.
Yeah. And that his purpose was to do something bold and dramatic, forceful and dynamic, a statement of my manhood for the world to see. He then began to stalk Wallace, following him through the country. More attracted to the idea of killing Nixon, on April 11th of that year, Bremer traveled to Ottawa, Canada, where Nixon was making a public appearance, but decided against killing him due to the high level of security there.
This is the first time that Nixon has been sexier than anyone.
It's like Nixon, for all of his many, many good qualities, did not have the riz. Like he did seem like even his friends would only at best be frenemies.
My favorite Nixon fact is that he drove his future wife on dates with other men.
Yep. He was the beta male orbiter.
You'll see. One day I'm gonna open relations with China. Then you'll all be sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna have an open relationship with China. Let's see. I looked away from the screen. There we go. After returning to his home state of Wisconsin, Bremer took 2 books about Sirhan Sirhan out of the library and wrote in his diary, "I am as important as the start of World War I. I just need a little opening and a second of time." He really should have pulled out a book on Gavrilo Princip. Like, not Sirhan Sirhan, because killing RFK did not start a war.
It's just a bunch of riots.
Yeah. Let's see. He then turned his full attention to Wallace, although somewhat less enthusiastically, as Wallace was not as well known as Nixon, and his death won't get more than 3 minutes on the network TV news. True.
Poor George Wallace.
Still, on May 9th, Bremer visited Wallace's local campaign headquarters and continued to follow him and attend his rallies. The day he set out for Laurel, Maryland, where Wallace was to appear next, Bremer wrote, "My cry upon firing will be a penny for your thoughts." Copyright 1972. All rights reserved. Arthur Bremer. That's a long thing to shout before you shoot somebody. On May 15th,
that's capitalism, baby.
Right. Bremer wearing he thought he was gonna
train.
Yeah, he was gonna say it so that when they quoted him, they'd have to pay him royalties. That's
just in the trial every time.
Cooks, if he had succeeded in killing Trump, allegedly, was going to have minted an NFT of the event. So anyone who wanted to talk about it would need to,
He was shouting out his favorite OnlyFans performer, and hoping to get her over that 10K threshold.
This is for you, Belle Delphine.
No, it was actually Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster is on OnlyFans. She's. I would think that she would.
Everybody wants the Jodissy.
Oh, God. Yeah. All right. Bremer on May 15th, 1972, Bremer wearing dark glasses, red, white, and blue clothing, and a Wallace and 72 campaign button, attended a campaign rally for Wallace. As many in the crowd jeered Wallace and even threw tomatoes at him, Bremer feigned support for him by loudly cheering and applauding. Due to the crowd's harsh reception of him, the candidate did not interact with the crowd after his speech, and Bremer found no opportunity to enact his plan. But succeeded later that day at another rally just a few miles away. Man,
we should have suspected him.
As recently as 1972, people threw tomatoes at public officials.
We should have known that this guy was suspicious because he showed up to 2 rallies for George Wallace.
No kidding.
But on a more serious note, when people bring up the Thomas Crooks thing, it's like, oh, well, he donated to MAGA. It's like, yeah, that's the same as like wearing a Make America Great Again shirt to a Trump rally with a pistol in your hand, or a George Wallace rally with a bunch of George Wallace shit on.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like, oh, you put $10 in, he's clearly dyed in the wool.
He was sheep dipped, I'm telling you.
Yeah, right. All right. When police searched his apartment, they found shell boxes, a Confederate flag, pornography, no kidding, Black Panther literature, newspaper clippings, Wallace campaign buttons. Yeah, why? He had multiple. A book entitled 101 Things to Do in Jail, and a number of diary entries, including ones that read, "My country, 'tis of thee, land of sweet bigotry. Cheer up, Oswald," and "White-collar, conservative, middle-class, Republican, conservative robot."
Are we sure that Gabe did not shoot George Wallace?
Here is of course he's asking the important questions as usual.
Bremer had the first goon cave.
I mean, let's be real. It kind of was.
Quick, Robin, to the goon cave.
In his car, which investigators described as a hotel on wheels, were pillows, blankets, a tape recorder, a radio with police band, binoculars, a 9mm automatic pistol, and the 1972 edition of Writer's Yearbook. Why would he not have used the 9mm?
It was too reliable. It would have done too good a job.
Yeah. During his trial, his defense attorneys argued that Bremer was schizophrenic, legally insane, and had no emotional capacity to understand anything. But the prosecutor argued otherwise and said that while perhaps the man was disturbed, he knew what he was doing when he attempted to kill Wallace, and he had done so to get attention, even calculating his arrest and subsequent media coverage of his trial.
Now, after if you were an African-American young male, that defense would have worked.
He would not have been able to do math, and thus would have been acquitted.
The New York Post, it's like, lone nut shoots George Wallace. Who's George Wallace? Find it out on page 5.
Exactly. Let's see. Don't forget, even cash. After a jury found him guilty at the conclusion of his sentencing hearing, Bremer was given the opportunity to speak and said, "The prosecutor said that he would like society to be protected from someone like me. Looking back on my life, I would have liked if society had protected me from myself. That's all I have to say at this time." He should have used the penny for your thoughts line. That's his real
that
opportunity.
Would have been the time to use it. Yeah. TM.
He was sentenced to serve 63 years in prison, but the sentence was appealed and reduced to 53 years. In 2007, after serving 35 years and at the age of 57, Bremer was released from prison and placed on probation until 2025.
We should take the show on
the
road.
Oh my God. Cap. He literally has less than 3 months.
No, seriously, Cap. We should take the show on the road. We should ask Bremer to be a guest.
We can get John Hinckley. He's on Spotify already.
We can get John Hinckley. All right, audience out there, for the handful of you that are listening, we need to start a letter writing campaign. We need to get in contact with Jodie Foster. I think we can do it.
We'll do a panel with Jodie Foster and and John Hinckley.
Jodie, how good is your head game that you're able to get all these men to kill political opposition?
Jody, since he gave it the good old college try, how about at least a date? Just coffee. Anyway,
Just
in
a
their
flash, Jody.
just a bit of nip. In their 1977 book, Snapping, America's Epidemic of Sudden Personality Change, Flo Conway and Jim Siegelman, man, no wonder someone named Flo would write a book about sudden personality change. Am I right, fellas? Proclaimed it's boomer humor, sir. Proclaimed that a rapidly growing epidemic of sudden personality change existed in America, a cultural phenomenon they dubbed snapping, wherein normal individuals undergo startling personal transformations that sometimes lead them to engage in acts of random violence. To help understand the emergent phenomenon, the authors introduced their theory of communication disorders and a particular subset of these that they termed information diseases, IDs. They described IDs as alterations in a person's information processing capacities that, unlike momentary, episodic, and individualized snapping, results in prolonged and marked change of awareness, diminished conscious control, and persisting impairments of a person's everyday powers of thinking, feeling, perception, memory, imagination, and conscious choice. It's a cognito hazard. It's an actual cognito hazard.
I'm not gonna lie. Every time, because I've read this book twice now, I skip this section because I'm just like I just keep saying in my head, bullshit.
Oh, you think that's bullshit?
Oh, yes, I do. I think Snapping is a terrible book.
Well, I have not read Snapping, but the concept of cognito hazards and social contagion, I think, is right. But whether or not they have phrased it exactly correctly or not is, another thing. But writing long before the emergence of the World Wide Web, the authors attributed America's ID epidemic to the unique stresses of modern life, especially information overload, as well as other isolated or ongoing traumatic experiences that in combination lead to the physical breakdown of a person's entire ability to make sense of his experience, making them more suggestible to outside influences and rendering them prone to uncontrollable urges and sudden outbursts of violence. One such trauma, called information stress, resulted from obsessive absorption with computers, television, or other modern-day hobbies, noting that recent generations have become molded not by rich real-life experiences, but information imparted electronically via television, film, computers, and other advances in communication technologies.
Having talked to Gabe, I reversed my position on Snapping.
Perfect. That convey narrow, shallow, and violent images and messages, lead to crises of identity at best and actual violence at worst, and render people mere holograms of the society they inhabit. While the most common IDs led to ongoing altered states of awareness, when in a more advanced and extreme stage, the delusional stage, an individual's ability to distinguish reality, fantasy, and illusion is impaired, causing them to suffer vivid delusions and confusion about whether they are actually awake or dreaming or a woman. In I think that they are probably overstating it. I kind of see what you're saying in terms of the bullshit thing.
It reads to me like an explanation for an obviously bullshit explanation that the establishment can use to hand wave away something that they know they have a bigger hand in than they want to admit publicly.
Oh, all right. I mean, I see where you're coming from with that, and I see how that could be used. But I mean, you agree that social contagion is a thing. Right?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think the best example of social contagion these days, unfortunately, is in autistic young women who believe that they are men.
Yeah, so true.
Have you guys heard about this thing?
We are the biggest fans of MK. We are MK plus Ultra.
I've never heard it. What's MK Ultra?
MK Ultra. Yeah, it's a low calorie beer that still has full bodied flavor.
Oh, I thought that was like a super deluxe McDouble.
Oh no, that'd be a McQuad.
Oh, got it.
In 1978, the year following the publications of Snapping, Theodore Ted Kaczynski began Uncle Ted.
Known for other work.
Also known for his other work, began targeting individuals in some way connected to modern technology through planting or mailing homemade bombs that from 1978 until 1995 killed 3 people and injured 23 others. Not a great ratio, Uncle Ted. Your praxis was always a little sus.
I mean, one would think that he was I'm not going to say that. Never mind. Keep going.
Okay. Return to monkey. All right. His bombing campaign ceased when he was apprehended on April 1996 after his brother tipped off the FBI to Kaczynski's whereabouts in Lincoln, Montana, where he lived a hermetic life in a cabin without electricity or running water. After pleading guilty, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
I don't think I could turn in my brother.
I couldn't. I don't have a brother, so I couldn't do it.
Well, yeah, I have a brother, and if he were doing some horrible, terrible thing, I think I don't think I have the stomach to turn him in.
It'd have to be pretty fucking bad. It'd have to be pretty fucking bad for me to turn in like someone in my immediate family. And the Unabomber does not rise to that level. So, as a child, Kaczynski
must have been an awkward Thanksgiving.
Everyone's sitting around reading the manifesto, like, this does slap, but doesn't this sound a little familiar? Don't you want to brag on our boy? And then they're like, yeah, we got to tell him who did it.
Now imagine if he didn't do it. He was some other guy, and then they have Thanksgiving. He's like, well, do you want the wishbone this year, Teddy? He's like, I don't know. I'd rather wish I wasn't sodomized in prison for 48 hours because somebody thought I was the Unabomber.
Fucking assholes. As a child, Kaczynski was often sick and frequently hospitalized for various ailments, including recurring hives. He feared other children and refused to interact with them, leading his mother to seek help for what she believed to be autism. He was, however, highly intelligent and completed high school at the age of 15. At 16, he began attending undergraduate classes at Harvard. While there, he, along with several other undergraduate students, became subject for psychological tests conducted by former interrogator for the World War II Intelligence Agency, the Office of Strategic Services, Henry Murray. The tests, which lasted several months, sought to measure reactions to extreme stress and distress. Students wrote essays about themselves, were taken into a room and placed in a seat facing bright light and a two-way mirror, hooked up to electrodes, and then berated, belittled, and subjected to brutal verbal attacks directed at their egos and beliefs. The experience and their interactions to it were filmed and then played back to them repeatedly through the course of the study. We're doing this to Gabe at Resolutions 20.
I was gonna say it's got to be a lot of fun to be the guy who gets to just yell at somebody and call them a retard until they break down.
Oh my God, absolutely. That, I mean, dream job, right? Be the MK Ultra guy.
It's like, I wouldn't have used that sentence, you fucking retard.
Kaczynski's brother said that prior to his participation in the test, his brother had been emotionally stable. In 1962, at the age of 20, Kaczynski graduated from Harvard. I want to see the Kaczynski bullying tapes. I bet they're all about your letter writing and parcel delivery acumen is substandard. You need to work on that.
He was Cliff Clavin before Cliff Clavin was a thing.
In 1962, at the age of 20, Kaczynski graduated from Harvard and enrolled in a doctoral program at the University of Michigan, where he earned a PhD in mathematics. While there, he taught courses and published a number of papers. In 1967, he graduated and was recognized by the school for writing the best dissertation in his field that year. That same year, he began teaching geometry and calculus courses at the University of California, Berkeley. Students complained about his teaching style, told administrators that he was very nervous in a teaching environment, and said he sometimes stuttered and mumbled during lectures. 2 years later, he resigned from his teaching position and moved to his cabin in Montana, where in 1978, he began his bombing campaign.
Could you imagine his Rate My Professor page?
Oh my.
It's like, yeah, no, I mean, he's really good at math and stuff, but every so often he would just start rambling about how the modern world is terrible. Something about the Industrial Revolution. It's hard to hear him.
It's just under his breath talking about timing chains and resistors.
These people don't know that I know how to build bombs.
What was that, Professor?
Nothing. Work in pairs.
In 1995, he sent a number of lectures to his lectures to his victims. Please give me notes. Letters to his victims and packages to media outlets. The packages contained his 35,000-word manifesto entitled Industrial Society and Its Future, commonly referred to as the Unabomber Manifesto.
Getting blown up was terrible, but then being forced to read, that was a step too far.
He sent the bombs to the bad critics.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's why I don't solicit advanced reader copies.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe Automaton 2 could use that sort of viral campaign.
Nice. He demanded that outlets publish the manifesto and promised to cease the bombings if they did. Eventually, in September 1995, after he threatened to kill more people because outlets had delayed publishing his writings, the New York Times and Washington Post complied with his demands. The writing advocated world revolution against modern society and its industrial technological system, which he said, among other things, had destroyed human autonomy, degraded their relationship to nature, and caused them to behave in ways that are increasingly remote from the natural pattern of human behavior. This system, unless it was destroyed, would evolve until human freedom was destroyed altogether. He railed against the system for causing individuals to become overly socialized and expressed his belief that modern psychological problems were the result of individuals having to live in physical and social environments and behave in conforming ways that are radically different from those in which humans had originally evolved to exist.
Could you imagine if you were like the young Republican club of some high school when you're like, hey guys, let's start the Freedom Club. And then a few months later, you read about the manifesto.
Yeah. He was like, oh man. Yeah.
What a good idea.
Further, according to Kaczynski, the system had developed various methods of controlling individual and group responses to their unnatural and extremely stressful environments. Imagine a society that subjects people to conditions that make them terribly unhappy, then gives them the drugs to take away their unhappiness. Science fiction? It's already happening to some extent in our own society. It's well known that the rate of clinical depression has been greatly increasing in recent decades. We believe that this is due to the disruption of the power process. An entertainment industry serves as an important psychological tool of the system, possibly even when it is dishing out large amounts of sex and violence. Entertainment provides modern man with an essential means of escape. While absorbed in television, videos, etc., he can forget stress, anxiety, frustration, dissatisfaction. So true, King, in fact.
Mr. E.L., chimp in nature does not jerk off. What mean?
I have observed many chimps in nature, and I have to tell you, it's not true.
They jerk off.
They love beating it. They, in fact, have no other means of recreation. Bonobos don't jerk off though. They just fuck. They only fuck. When he read the manifesto in the newspaper, his brother recognized Kaczynski's writing style and alerted the FBI, who then arrested him. The first psychiatrist, it really means that he had a distinct authorial voice, though. You know, like, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's you don't want to be the writer that everybody kind of thinks sounds like everybody else.
That's true. It's like, oh, this could have been anyone.
No, it's very Hemingway-esque.
Yeah, it's like, this is fucking terrible. This guy must like Joseph Conrad.
This is really good for YA. Could you imagine workshopping the manifesto?
Workshopping the manifesto. Oh my God, please, manifestos only.
Why are you keep writing in the plural? You're one guy.
The
DNF.
You know who could have used a manifesto workshop? The Nashville Tranifesto shooter.
Could have really used an editor too.
Low quality output from women.
When are we gonna do that one? That'll certainly get Tukey's kicked off the internet.
I mean, it's not, you can't even like read it. It's non-linear. Like, it's not, I mean, it's
a postmodern manifesto.
It's also mostly just swears. Like, anyway, When he read the manifesto in the newspaper, his brother recognized Kaczynski's writing style and alerted the FBI, who then arrested him. The first psychiatrist appointed by the court diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia, but nevertheless found him fit to stand trial. Experts who evaluated him later came to disagree with the diagnosis. While his attorneys wanted to plead insanity in order to avoid a death sentence, he adamantly insisted he was not insane, and so, in order to avoid the publicity of trial, Kaczynski agreed to plead guilty in exchange for life in prison. While incarcerated at a federal supermax prison in Florence, Colorado, Kaczynski met, corresponded with, and became friends with Timothy McVeigh. In a number of letters to his biographers, McVeigh referred to Kaczynski as his kindred spirit. I mean, honestly, fairly based.
Yeah. I wonder what their conversations were like.
EL, I am not sure who you're talking about.
Yes, please expand on that, Mr. EL.
Also, Gabe is absolutely right here. The Nashville Manifesto was insanely horny, as one might expect from someone who is obsessed with
Nutcracker Out How Long?
Nutcracker Out How Long? Nutcracker 2 is set in Nashville.
Oh, the guy who decapitated. Well, there's a whole episode of the Tukey Sidebar based
on
that.
Justin Moan. I esoteric monism, sir. He's a great one. I have read his manifesto. Actually, we could totally read his manifesto in a single episode of this. Maybe we should put America's Coming Bloody Revolution by Justin Moan on the docket for after Aberration in the Heartland of the Real. But yes, he allegedly decapitated his dad. He has not been convicted, although I must say there is some evidence. Yes, this is the story, but I just wouldn't have. I feel like you buried the lead. I feel like you buried the lead by saying he was the citizen arrest guy. That's all.
Known for other work.
Yeah, known for his his subsequent work. I do have physical copies of all 9 of his published works.
The published author and citizen arrestee.
Yes. All right. Mark David Chapman. On December 8th, 1980, 25-year-old Mark David Chapman shot and killed musician and cultural icon John Lennon in the lobby of his New York City apartment building, but not before John Lennon committed the horrible crime of releasing the Plastic Ono Band album.
If any of the Beatles were going to get shot, it was going to be John.
It was.
There's that one picture of him walking down the street looking like a douchebag.
Oh yeah,
and somebody posted. He's like,
that was. Tell
John,
me. I believe that was John Slaughter.
Oh yeah, John.
Yeah, John Slaughter posted the picture of.
Tell me this guy didn't like an asshole or deserved to get shot.
All right. After which he calmly remained on the scene, reading J.D. Salinger's 1951 novel, The Catcher in the Rye, Gabe mentioned. When the police arrived shortly afterwards, Chapman took off his coat to show the police he had no hidden weapons, told them he had acted alone and that the novel was his statement, and explained to them, "I'm sure the big part of me is Holden Caulfield, who is the main person in the book. The small part of me is the devil." Soon after, he claimed he could remember aiming his gun at Lennon, but only recalled pulling. He claimed he could not remember aiming his gun at Lennon, but only recalled pulling the trigger. In the years after his arrest and conviction, Chapman disclosed that as a child, also what you should have said. Your first statement to the police should have been, "Happiness is a warm gun." Huge missed opportunity.
Now, I wonder personally if J.D. Salinger ended up suing Mark David Chapman, because Salinger was litigious as hell.
I mean,
he sued Field of Dreams he sued W.B. Kinsella, the guy who wrote the book that would end up becoming Field of Dreams.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. All right. In the years after his arrest and conviction, Chapman disclosed that as a child he feared his father, who was unloving towards him and physically abusive towards his mother. To cope, Chapman retreated into a fantasy life where he became king of a colony of little people who lived in his bedroom walls. In high school, Chapman, who was bullied for his poor athletic ability, began using drugs, skipping classes, and running away from home. When he was 20, Chapman enrolled in college and began working for the YMCA and World Vision, counseling young Vietnamese refugees in Arkansas and Beirut, Lebanon.
Okay, two places known for how peaceful they are.
Two places known for why fuck would you go to? Well, anyway, all right.
Well, no, I think they came to the U.S.
That's clearly a whole fucking story, right? Despite his seeming success, when he and his girlfriend began having problems that led to their eventual breakup, Chapman became suicidal, dropped out of college, and moved to Hawaii. At the age of 22, after an unsuccessful attempt to end his own life with carbon monoxide, feminine way to kill yourself, he was admitted to a hospital for psychiatric treatment, where he was diagnosed with clinical depression. At age 23, inspired by the book Around the World in 80 Days, Chapman toured the world for 6 weeks.
Imagine failing to kill yourself. You're already feeling really bad about yourself, and then you can't even do that right. Couldn't be me. If I wanted to, right away.
Yeah. I mean, I encourage you, Hudson. If it becomes your goal, just do it right. Just do it right the first time. The last thing you want is to miss and end up retarded or paralyzed, and then it becomes way harder to do it the second time. And you have more reason, in fact. Upon returning to Hawaii, Chapman married his travel agent. Wow.
That's an old sentence.
Yeah, he toured the world for 6 weeks. Maybe he was with his travel agent. Charging into an overwhelming group of your enemies and taking a good ratio with you.
I was going to say orgy of giant women.
It's just you get
that's the future on the way.
You get plapped to death. That would be David Harrod.
Broken pelvi.
Yeah, death by snoo. All right, death by snoo or charging into a group of your enemies and taking a good and getting a good KD ratio.
Or you eat a really good hamburger, but it's a little undercooked, so you die.
What? I've actually had E. coli before, and it was the sickest I have ever been in my life.
Yeah, and I bet you felt like a real man.
I did, absolutely. Yeah, it's the only way to feel like a man while bleeding from your asshole. Let's see. Married his travel agent. He said that about a year later, on the heels of some frustrating life events, he resumed his relationship with his childhood imaginary friends, the little people, developed an obsession with John Lennon, and his fixation with the Catcher in the Rye became a full-fledged obsession. The year before he killed Lennon, Chapman wrote a letter to a friend in which he told her, "I'm going nuts," signing the letter The Catcher in the Rye. Although previously a fan of Lennon and later claiming he had no particular feelings about Lennon one way or the other, those who knew him said Chapman, an aspiring musician himself, became angered when Lennon publicly rejected the existence of God and declared that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. Chapman railed against Lennon for espousing a message of peace and love and rejection of capitalistic trappings, while accumulating great wealth, traits antithetical to Catcher in the Rye protagonist Holden Caulfield's ideal of anti-phoniness.
The ultimate phony, John Lennon. God was coming to him.
So true. Chapman, attempting to diffuse the perception that he shot Lennon simply to get attention, explained, "I understood that it was necessary for a man to die. A phony man had to die. But what a beautiful foundation was laid by his death. I became that book." A couple of months before the shooting, Chapman informed his wife that he planned to kill Lennon, but perhaps not taking him seriously, she failed to notify authorities. On October 23rd,
you always talk about it. Why don't you just go do it?
Just do it. You never follow through on anything.
My mother was right about you.
On October 23rd, Chapman quit his job as security guard, and on his last day, signed out as John Lennon. Days later, he bought a .38 caliber pistol.
Boy, the 38 is really the Ryder truck of pistols.
Yeah, what the fuck, guy? Why is everyone getting?
Were they just free back then?
Yeah, is it just because it's cheap? What is the deal here? Like you are not walking away from this. Like,
although I will
like,
say,
so just buy a good one.
I will say that just means that George Wallace was constitutionally stronger than John Lennon.
I mean, who could doubt it? Who could doubt it? John Lennon could have had any woman in the world, and he went for, and as a yellow.
Yeah, glass houses and such.
Yeah, glass houses and stuff. I'm just saying, Yoko Ono is like a 3 out of 10. Like, not even like John Lennon could have had anybody. He could have had a fucking harem.
He did.
Like, but he stopped when he got Yoko. Like, what the fuck?
I mean, he had a very strange fetish where he really liked to beat his wives, and Yoko just happened to enjoy being beated.
I mean, also I guess her yelling was unique. I mean, if you're just really into having a woman scream at you, then I mean, she probably is the goat. She's goated at that. Yoko Ono goated at screaming.
The throat goat, as some would say. Nutcracker out how long?
Let's see. I am aware, but they're still both underpowered. Like, and especially with George Wallace, you could have used a 9mm, which is like perfectly fine. Anyway, prior to leaving his New York hotel room early in the morning of December 8th, Chapman carefully placed various personal items around his room for police to find later, including cryptic writings and a copy of Catcher in the Rye, in which he had written, "This is my statement."
What did he mean by this?
What did he mean by this? Chapman, he wants to rape his sister? We've got to protect her. Chapman arrived at Lennon's residence early that morning and waited there the entire day. He observed Lennon leaving the building around 5 p.m., but only asked him to autograph an album cover. Should have been Revolver. When Lennon returned around 10:46 p.m., Chapman fired 5 shots at Lennon, hitting him 4 times.
Wasn't Revolver primarily written by not Paul? Who's the third most talented Beatle?
George Harrison.
Yeah, George Harrison. That's it.
The actual answer is the first most talented one is Ringo, because he's the only one who has like been happy. So
I never saw George Harrison doing Skechers commercials.
Lennon was pronounced dead about 15 minutes later. It took him 15 minutes to die. Come on. A psychiatrist retained by the defense team diagnosed Chapman with schizophrenia and said that the voices of the little people in his head had ordered him to kill Lennon. After this initial evaluation, the defense and prosecution called in additional mental experts to evaluate him, who found him to be, among other things, delusional, suffering from grandiose visions of himself, and possibly psychotic, but still sane and competent to stand trial. Chapman's defense attorneys still planned to argue an insanity defense. However, shortly before the trial, Chapman informed his legal team and the court that he wished to change his plea to guilty, as this was the will of God, and denied having ever heard voices. In 1981, the presiding judge accepted his guilty plea and sentenced Chapman to 20 years to life and psychiatric treatment. Since then, Chapman, who remains married to his first wife, has been denied parole 8 times and will be eligible for parole hearings again in 2016.
Well, that's nice.
Hey, Jamie, is he out?
Yeah, Jamie, pull that up. Oh,
Jamie, pull that up.
I think I'm Jamie.
You're Jamie right now. Yeah,
all right.
You need to do this.
What's his name? John Hinckley?
Yes, John Hinckley. No, John Hinckley shot Ronald Reagan.
Chapman.
We're about to do him, John David Chapman. Yeah. All right. Moving on to John Hinckley Jr., who you should look up on Spotify. He's got some nice stuff. Also, like Yoko being Japanese royalty, okay, that's cool, but like still, like I don't know, maybe it's different when you're English and like royalty means more to you.
Up to 2022, he's still in prison.
Ripperoo.
In upstate in New York.
Let him out.
He served his time.
Free John David Chapman. Yeah. John Hinckley Jr. On March 30th, 1981, John Hinckley Jr. shot at President Ronald Reagan with a .22 revolver Again, guys, come on. As Reagan exited the Washington, D.C. Hilton Hotel, where he had just finished a speaking engagement. Although Hinckley failed to kill Reagan, he did manage to wound him along with 3 others, including 2 Secret Service agents and White House press secretary James Brady. Hinckley was quickly apprehended. When he was searched, police found a copy of Catcher in the Rye.
And to be fair, this is before Arnold Schwarzenegger made carrying big guns really popular in his 80s movies. So it's possible that people were thinking more pragmatically with their concealable weapons.
I don't know, man.
You can't really conceal a 45.
Did you see? Have you seen the pictures from the John Hinckley Jr. shooting?
No, I actually
because there are Secret Service agents with full-on Uzi minis carried under their sport coats. Like you could have fit a 1911 in there somewhere. I'm just saying. Like it's possible.
Yeah, but nobody wants to be Fredo.
Ugh. I guess.
Listen, Mark David Chapman was a loser. He would have definitely fumbled the gun.
Oh, just like it's too much gun.
Yeah, he would have fumbled the gun. It would have been all Fredo, and then people would have laughed at him, and no one would think that he was Holden Caulfield.
Well, John Hinckley Jr. had a 22 pistol, had a 22 revolver, which is like, I mean, yeah, I guess you get more shots, but.
Do you know what they say about Mark David Chapman in prison? Is it Holden Caulfield? No, you're holding this pocket, boy.
Oh God. Hinckley grew up in a wealthy family with elite political connections, including the Bush family. He played on he played on a number of school sports teams. Was a talented pianist. Yeah, Hinckley was just like chilling with Bin Laden.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
all the other people with connections to the Bushes.
Yeah, they were just having cocktails at Bin Laden's house.
Yep. Boof and coke off sorority girl butts.
Listen, John, I need you to do me a favor. I really want to be president.
No problem, George. I got you. Well, I guess it would be more like Mr. Bush because Hinckley is a boomer, so he's like the same age as W.
No, but think James Brady is also at the party. He's like, hey, what are you guys talking about?
Nothing.
Hey, make sure you're at the Hilton Hotel tomorrow, okay, Jimmy?
Absolutely, Mr. Vice President. Let's see. He played on a number of school sports teams, was a talented pianist, popular with his classmates, and twice during high school voted class president. John Hinckley Jr. Chad. Despite his popularity, Hinckley became withdrawn and isolated. After graduating high school, he attended college in Texas on and off until 1980. During his time in 1975, he relocated to Los Angeles to pursue his dream of becoming a songwriter, but was unsuccessful. In many letters written to his family while there, Hinckley complained of his professional and economic frustrations and told them about his girlfriend, Lynn, who in reality did not exist. The following year,
if we had to create like a murderer super band, right? Obviously, Charlie Manson on guitar, right? We could say John Hinckley
also plays guitar.
Who? Yeah, no, he'll be rhythm guitar. You're not upstaging Charlie.
That's true. Yeah. Leading man material.
Yeah. I guess Keith Moon would be the drummer. And then who would be the bassist?
I mean, you could basically put anyone in there, right?
We'll put John Lennon in there just to have a little strife.
Lennon is on bass. Although John Lennon was also a guitarist.
At chat, I only picked Keith Moon because he was like the wildest drummer ever. If you can think of somebody better, comment in chat.
A murderer bassist.
Yeah. Make your all-star murderer band.
Murderface.
I don't think Uncle Ted had the rhythm to be a drummer, Gabe.
Yeah, but he could do like improvised
percussion. He's like Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, the 1812 overture. You got to call it Uncle Ted for the 1812 overture.
He's the Neil Peart of blowing things up.
God. All right. Where the fuck am I? Oh yeah. Who in reality did not exist. The following year, in 1976, he returned to live at the home of his parents, at which time he began taking psychiatric medication, antidepressants, and tranquilizers, purchasing and familiarizing himself with firearms, and grew obsessed with the 1976 movie Taxi Driver. Its fictional protagonist, Travis Bickle, played by Robert De Niro, and the film's lead actress, Jodie Foster. In the movie, loosely based on the exploits of Arthur Bremer, Bickle, a disaffected Vietnam veteran, plans to assassinate presidential candidate Senator Charles Palatine. But after being observed by the Secret Service at a campaign rally, abandons his plan. He then develops a protective relationship and obsession with a child prostitute played by Foster's character. Played by Foster. No, it's played by Foster. Yeah, played by Foster.
That's the third mistake I've found thus far. And I'm not one to talk. I too have my authorial flourishes. I call them Easter eggs for the careful reader. But come on, this is a professionally done book, Wendy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I mean, it's also it's
Trying Day.
Trying Day. Come on, Trying Day. Yeah, I mean, judging a book by its cover, Trying Day is not gonna win any awards here.
You know, it's the opposite of Passage Press.
It's true. It's true, but they sell more books. So he successfully encourages her to turn her life around. After becoming obsessed with the movie, Hinckley began stalking Foster, sending her letters, phoning her, and attending a class at Yale University where Foster was enrolled. He devised and then abandoned several schemes to write himself into history and thereby impress her, including hijacking an airplane and committing suicide in front of her. Hinckley then began collecting literature about extremist groups. I know what that's like. And American assassins, including Lee Harvey Oswald. Purchased a .22 pistol and Devastator, exploding bullets. Yeah, but there's still 22. He then set his sights on President Ronald Reagan. In his efforts to impress Foster, Hinckley considered assassinating Senator Edward Kennedy.
Oh, that would have been...
And stopped him for a brief...
Yeah, I mean, things happen in threes, so...
He could have saved those poor...
It would have been the comedic thing to do.
Yeah, it's just, why is it always a Kennedy? See,
this is the Aristotelian thing to do.
The Kennedys, that is mimetic contagion. That is a mimetic contagion, like people always going for the Kennedys.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys.
Clone High.
Great show.
Various psychiatric evaluations diagnosed Hinckley with schizophrenia, dysthymia, a type of prolonged depression, as well as narcissistic, schizoid, borderline, and passive-aggressive personality disorders. In 1982, Hinckley successfully pled not guilty by reason of insanity and was remanded to St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Hinckley had a significant effect on laws regarding the insanity defense, some completely abolishing it. Hinckley, perhaps more than any other lone nut before him, sparked gun control debates that eventually led to the passage of the Brady Bill, gun control legislation named after Jim Brady, the press secretary whom he had wounded. In 1987, Hinckley was granted the privilege of regular overnight stays with his parents, and in January 2015 told reporters that he hoped to be deemed eligible for release soon and described his recent efforts to get a job at Starbucks.
Did you know that Project 2025 has its own version of the Brady Bill where it's legal to shoot a journo?
Based. Does it open the NFA registry again? Because that's another horrible thing that happened as a result of John Hinckley's shooting attempt. That's why you can't fucking buy a machine gun. That's why they're like $100,000.
I mean, I lost all mine in a boating accident. So
yeah, well,
who's the real loser here?
The millennial generation. the millennial generation who never had cheap automatic weapons. Imagine being able to install a giggle switch on your fucking AR. That would
Imagine
be
just opening a Sears Roebuck catalog and being able to get a Tommy gun for the low price of $20.
Yep, delivered to your door. Yeah,
with bullets.
With bullets, batteries included.
You don't give a kid a toy without batteries.
These are my motor bullets. A number of conspiracy theories or alternate narratives. Actually, this is interesting. Ryan Dawson claims the bomb that actually killed people were sent by the accomplices Ted had at the time.
See, I don't see Ted being incompetent, though. Like that,
well, I mean, he didn't kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
If his goal was to kill people, right, which we assume.
But you would. It's strange to me that that everything stopped after his arrest. You would think if he did have accomplices, there would be an attempt to even perhaps free him. Like, this will keep happening unless you let go our comrade, something like that. Unless they were all cowards.
I mean, maybe the whole point was to just get the manifesto published because
we all really didn't like Ted. So
it was just like he was stinky. We wanted running water in the.
He gave us the ick.
Yeah, we wanted running water in the monkey hut.
Which is now in the FBI museum.
It was in the museum, but then the FBI fucking took it.
Imagine having your house stolen by the FBI.
I looked up. Normally they just burn it down. I looked up.
Well, there were no children inside.
Right? Yeah. Why bother? I did try to see if it had been like auctioned off when the museum closed, and to my disappointment, it was held by the FBI.
Repossessed.
Yeah, repossessed by the FBI.
Well, I mean, not for nothing. They just figured that it was rightfully theirs. I mean, they were the ones who built it.
Technically, I think it would belong to the the Bureau of Land Management, since I think he was on public land. So BLM should have taken it.
Could you imagine his little hut, but like with one of those "We Believe" in front
in this house, we believe
in this hut.
In this hut, we believe the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. All right. A number of conspiracy theories or alternate narratives have been constructed to explain the actions of this progression of assassins, just as they were about McVeigh, as well as other lone nuts who followed him. Many times, these alternate narratives involved claims that the particular shooter under discussion had been set up by the CIA, FBI, or both, and sometimes that they were hypnotized / brainwashed / programmed assassins of the Manchurian Candidate variety. In April 1995, lone wolf Timothy McVeigh joined a long line of disaffected, listless, and fantasy-prone American males who commit highly public violent crimes. Media outlets and commentators frequently made comparisons between McVeigh and nearly all of the previous lone gunmen, although none so much as Lee Harvey Oswald, with whom he appeared to have the most in common. His defense attorney, Stephen Jones, described McVeigh as a demonized symbol of American terror and on several occasions likened him to Oswald. For instance, in 1997, the Toronto Star deemed both Oswald and McVeigh blank slates on which the nightmare side of American life can be projected. Spiritual brothers and true representatives of a type that emerges every now and then to act out a recurring American nightmare.
I will say that I gave Wendy a little shit before for some errors, but that was an excellent weave she did.
Yes. You got to do the weave. Let's see. The article pointed out the many similarities shared by Oswald and McVeigh. Both came from broken homes, were bullied as children, loved guns, joined the military, and subsequently left under a cloud of unknowns. Both grew frustrated by their many life failures. By their mid-20s, had achieved infamy by committing highly public murder and ultimately died in a storm of publicity nearly as intense as that surrounding the acts they committed. The article closed with the warnings that acts like Oswald and McVeigh's will happen again in America, surely, on some day when its inhabitants are not expecting bloodshed.
I will say that it's a good thing that Ted Kaczynski didn't have a wife, or McVeigh probably would have slept with her.
So true. So true. Yeah, they became friends in prison. Oh my God. Yeah.
I can't wait till we get to that part.
In the second edition of their book, released in 1995, Conway and Siegelman discuss the rise in reported incidents of people snapping suddenly and violently, and sensational crimes, mass slayings, and quieter instances of people snapping in everyday life situations. Average everyday people, excuse me, were pushed to the breaking point and beyond, and becoming anxious, confused, overwhelmed, overloaded, vulnerable to manipulation, and ultimately less capable of thinking and acting as fully human beings. They attributed this situation to traumatic social and political and technological transitions in culture besieged by fanatical mindsets and apocalyptic messages, masses of information, mountains of technology, and an explosion of new experiences, increased pressures on minds and bodies, new strains of illnesses, spreading social turmoil, and the breakdown of basic human bonds and supporting social structures. Basically, what Ted said. Come on, like just you're cribbing hard, guys. In this second edition, Conway and Siegelman included chapters about the events at Waco and the OKC bombing, using the actions of Timothy McVeigh as the latest example of prolonged snapping. To them, both Waco and the OKC bombing indicated a much larger group of vulnerable minds that have increasing difficulty distinguishing literal messages from metaphors. They noticed an increased suggestibility found in children who space out while consuming television or film media, and pointed out that by the time they reach adolescence, the average American has spent tens of thousands of hours in front of television sets, has watched as many murders and engineered acts of violence, and has been exposed to hundreds of thousands of commercials filled with arbitrary symbols of coded commands and meaning. Although not noted by the authors, McVeigh had watched the fire that killed the Davidians. I almost said the Dravidians, if only.
I
At
didn't know
Waco,
she was Jewish.
live on television, while the Davidians themselves likely only watched live TV on any regular basis in the hours leading up to their deaths. The authors concluded that the profusion of engineered images, experiences, and environments had not only undermined traditional institutions, examples, nuclear family, education, work, government, and religion, but made information stress a fact of life, and ominously but accurately warned readers that the phenomenon of increased snapping seems to be accelerating as a tumultuous millennium approaches.
Could you imagine? I'm just thinking about that episode of The Simpsons where the bear is loose in the town and they're watching live on TV and the mailbox gets smashed up and Homer just says, "Boy, it's a terrible day for the Impson family." It's like, oh man, I'd hate to be at Waco. Wait, aren't we at Waco? Ah.
In the year, it's just an ATF tank runs you over.
Whoa, this new 3D TV is great.
In the years following, if I haven't seen it, it's new to me. If in the years following the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing and the second edition of snapping, a slew of highly dramatic and public mass shootings and other spectacles of terror and death occurred, several during the writing of this book. Unlike many of the previous acts of often random and always highly public violence, these newer and increasingly frequent spectacles seem to have less defined or sometimes no clearly political motivation other than the frustrations of the violent actors. Stories told about these newer lone gunmen inevitably reflected recurring elements found in those told about the legendary, infamous American assassins and gunmen in history. All the lone nuts are predictably and without fail compared to Timothy McVeigh, himself an archetype, and his name is shorthand for young, angry, and violent dealers of unexpected mass death. The modern-day Oswalds, Hinckleys, Whitmans, and Chapmans are likewise regularly depicted as alienated, disaffected, bullied, antisocial loners, young men lost in a violent fantasy world, inspired by and drawing upon recurring images, archetypes, and cultural scripts in popular media. Their construction and enactment of these scripts has been attributed to a number of actual or perceived intolerable life circumstances and dysfunctions, psychological, familial, social, cultural, and political, shared by the loners.
I was just thinking, if Ted Kaczynski taught us anything, it's that bullying works.
So true. All right. Are you voting? Are you voting Harris?
I'm voting Klebold.
Okay. Okay, great. Columbine. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, sir, both 17 years old, are credited with ushering in the age of the mass shooter and the American school shooting epidemic. On the morning of April 20th, 1999, Hitler's birthday, when they arrived at their
Could
high
you
school.
imagine being the kids that skipped school to smoke weed that day?
Oh my God! Yeah, no kidding.
See,
kidding.
Mom, this is why I did it.
They're all like, it was just,
who's a loser now, Mom?
You skipped school on Hitler's birthday. When they arrived at their high school in Columbine, Colorado, bearing an array of illegally purchased guns and explosives. During their subsequent shooting spree, they killed 13 and wounded 31 others before killing themselves. Fellow students later described Harris and Klebold as outcasts who obsessively surfed the internet, played video games, and had, in the years leading to the shooting, adopted a paramilitary fashion style.
Allegedly.
Others noted that the shooters held extremist, anarchistic, and unabashedly racist political views and had an interest in the doomsday prophecies of Nostradamus. Are they our guys? Nothing indicated that either had an abusive or in any way troubled home life, and no comfortable or familiar psychological explanation based in individual trauma could explain their act. Rather, they were reportedly inspired by Oklahoma bomber Timothy McVeigh, all three the victims of vivid millennial dreams. While not the first,
don't pin this on millennials.
Well, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were born in 1981, so they were just barely millennials. Let's see. All three were
buildings is such a Gen X and Boomer thing to do.
No kidding. Well, not the first school shooting or random public one. The distinctive style in which they carried out their horrific fantasy, at the time the deadliest school shooting in American history, changed discourses about violence, and the ensuing media spectacle they starred in gained them celebrity, inspiring copycat shooters. All right, look, I'm a little aside here on Harris and Klebold.
There's a lot of questions, let's say.
There is so much more. I was recently Columbine pilled by friend of the show in Celicide, who linked me to a couple who linked me to a couple things that actually I will put in chat. I will put in chat right now. There we go. Which you all can enjoy later. So
Control C.
It's basically discussing that that it was more a failed bombing than a successful shooting. And much of what they did had been sort of basically that none of their bombs worked, and if they had worked, it would have been a very different sort of thing. It was astoundingly well planned, if this analysis is correct. And it's actually a little fortunate that the narrative of Columbine is that they didn't plan and that they just like went to shoot some people, because it was sort of the mimetic germ for that style of crime. And if the memeplex had been associated differently, I think you probably would have seen a lot of, very different,
a lot of more competent,
copycats. Very different kinds of copycats. Also, they did branding, like they had their own custom shirts and shit. Like, I'm just, like,
honestly, their podcast probably would have been good.
It would have slapped. Like, let's be real.
They were just born too early to get on the podcast grift.
Yep, born too early. I'm only 3 years younger than them, so I guess it was a narrow thing. All right, Luke Helder. In 2002, 21-year-old Luke Helder injured 6 people with 18 pipe bombs, filled with BBs and nails and left in mailboxes rigged to detonate upon opening. Along with the bombs were notes detailing Helder's anti-government beliefs and warnings that mailboxes are exploding.
Boy, that would have been useful 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Helder had placed the bombs in locations over a distance of 3,200 miles, including Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, Colorado, and Texas. He had chosen his targets so that the bombs would create a smiley face across the United States map, an idea he borrowed from the 1990 film Fight Club.
Which I just discussed. That episode dropped today on Cannon Fodder with Max Lethy, writer of Meme.
Author of Meme.
Yeah, go take a listen to that after we're done here.
Helder, a seemingly average kid by most accounts, was in a 3-piece grunge rock band called Apathy, whose only CD was titled Sacks of People. Nice. Actually, that's pretty good. Someone find that. Hopefully that's not lost media.
What's the in Afghanistan, they would like cut open your stomach and then tie your innards around your head, and they called it like a human bag or something.
It really sounds like more of a gut turban.
Hey, I didn't name it.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe it's a mistranslation from Pashtun or whatever. His professors at the University of Minnesota, which he attended at the time, described him as a good, quiet, and polite student. Just prior to the bombings, Helder sent a 6-page letter to his school newspapers explaining how each person has the ability to create their own reality, and that once you begin to realize the potential you have as a consciousness/soul/spirit, you will begin to harness the abilities you have to produce realities. He described the bombs as attention getters and explained, "I'm taking very drastic measures in an attempt to provide this information to you. I will die/change in the end for this, but that's okay. Haha, paradise awaits. I'm dismissing a few individuals from reality to change all of you lot for the better. I'm doing this because I care. In the end, you will know I was telling you the truth anyway." Helder later said that both the bombings and the manifesto were intended to gather media attention so that he could inform the public about government control and promote marijuana legalization and astral projection. Helder was found incompetent to stand trial in 2004 and remanded to the Federal Medical Center in Rochester, Minnesota, where he remains.
Based?
I mean, look, man. I mean, I remember being in college in 2002 because I am an ancient man, and I watched. Fight Club was like the movie you fucking watched with the boys, but I never wanted to, do Project Mayhem. Just saying.
No, of course not.
Sung Hui Cho at 6:47 a.m. on April 16, 2007, after a 5-year respite from the massive carnage caused by these snappers. This is a terrible word, snappers. 23-year-old college senior Sung Hee Cho, armed with a .22 caliber and 9mm semi-automatic handguns, entered a dormitory on Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, Virginia Tech, VTech, just kicked in, campus and shot and killed 2 students. He then went to his own room, changed his clothes, deleted his email, and removed the hard drive from his computer. About 2 hours later, Cho went to a post office near the campus and, using the name A. Ishmael for the return address, mailed some of his writings and a videotape to NBC News. He then walked back to campus and, carrying a backpack containing chains, locks, a hammer, 19...
Oh no, Cap, a hammer!
Oh no! 19, 10, and 15-round magazines, 400 rounds of ammunition, and his guns, entered a building full of engineering classrooms and lecture halls, chained the front door shut, and placed a note on it warning that if the door opened, a bomb would go off. Cho proceeded to the second floor, looked inside several classrooms, entered one, and opened fire. He eventually murdered 30 students and professors and wounded 17 more before fatally shooting himself in the head. When the body was examined, the words Ishmael Axe were found scrawled on his arm. This is exactly the type of thing that Cho was absolutely, and I'm reading ahead a little bit here, and I can see he was going for the high score. In his words, I think he actually introduced the high score phrasing, but he hit the VTech attack absolutely would have been carried out differently if Harris and Klebold had been successful in their bombings. Like there would have been way more people killed. So, small mercy. Cho, a remarkably shy and quiet individual, suffered from selective mutism, severe depression, and anxiety. He'd been subjected to merciless bullying prior to and during his time as a student at Virginia Tech. In 2005, he was accused of stalking 2 female students, and his English teacher complained about his bizarre classroom behaviors and disturbing writings. After an investigation, he was declared mentally ill and ordered to get treatment if he wanted to continue to attend school. In a suicide note left in his dorm room prior to the shooting, Cho railed against rich kids, debauchery, and deceitful charlatans. The package sent to NBC contained pictures of Cho holding his guns, his 1,800-word manifesto. I like how manifesto is in scare quotes here because 1,800 words ain't shit. That is a pamphlet at best. And 27 videos of himself in which he aimed his guns at the camera, ranted about the rich, compared himself to Jesus, and extolled other martyrs like Eric Klebold and Dylan Harris. Is Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold? Yeah, so that's backwards. Okay. In one, Cho stated, "You had 100 billion chances and ways to have avoided today, but you decided to spill my blood. You forced me into a corner and gave me only one option. The decision was yours. Now you have blood on your hands that will never wash off. You just love to crucify me. You loved inducing cancer in my head, terror in my heart, and ripping my soul all this time." In another, he said, "I didn't have to do this. I could have left. I could have fled. But no, I will no longer run. It's not for me, for my children, for my brothers and sisters that you fuck. I did it for them."
Okay, so we found the lyricist for our murderer band.
Oh God, yeah. Well, this is the wait, who's the Asian rapper portion of Linkin Park? What's
I have
his
no
name?
idea.
Anyway, the rapper in Linkin Park is Asian, so you can get Cho for that. And Charlie can be the Chester. In the aftermath of the VTech massacre, as it came to be known, a number of troubling questions were raised. Proper emergency response measures were reevaluated, as were privacy laws that prevented school officials from learning of Cho's previous mental health issues. The year after the shooting, gun control legislation was signed into law that mandated improvements to federal databases used to determine eligibility for gun purchases. I need a fact check on that. I need a source, please. Source, can you provide a source? Because if so, well, I mean, all right, maybe I give Cho a pass on the brevity.
It's the soul of wit.
Yes, brevity is the soul of wit. Major Nadal Malik Hassan. Let's see. Ongoing debates on whether mass shootings constitute acts of terrorism, legally or in practice, became more salient when, on November 9th, 2009, 39-year-old Major Nadal Malik Hassan, an Islamic U.S. Army psychiatrist, arrived at work armed with a semi-automatic pistol fitted with 2 laser sights, a .357 revolver, and over 3,000 rounds of ammunition. Hassan sat at a cafeteria table briefly, suddenly got up from his seat, yelled, "Allahu Akbar!" and then began shooting at uniformed personnel. A civilian police officer shot him, leaving Hassan permanently paralyzed from the waist down, but not before Hassan had killed 13 people and wounded more than 30 others. Upon graduating high school, Hassan joined the army and attended college while serving as an enlisted soldier. He earned a bachelor's degree in biochemistry from VTech and a medical degree from the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences in 2003. While an intern and resident at Walter Reed Medical Center from 2003 to 2009, he completed a master's in public health and a 2-year fellowship in disaster and preventative psychiatry at the School Center for Traumatic Stress. Hassan received poor evaluations from his superiors and was reprimanded for his substandard work. Students and faculty there found him to be socially isolated, deeply troubled, disconnected, aloof, paranoid, belligerent, and schizoid. Just what you want to see in a psychiatric professional. On
I
a
mean,
number
he
of
loved his work
occasions-
and he took it home with him.
So true. On a number of occasions, his colleagues reported his strange behaviors to superiors, and in 2008, the staff and board of directors called a meeting to discuss the reports. No, Elliot Rogers' name is not banned. But yeah, I don't know. He's just I don't actually think Elliot Rogers is all that interesting, but I mean, your mileage may vary. Let's see. On the summer of 2009, Hassan began working at the Soldier Readiness Processing Center at Fort Hood, treating soldiers immediately before and after deployment. His colleagues there described him as anti-American, and at one point, the FBI had even conducted an investigation into Hassan's online correspondence with known Islamic radicals. One family member said Hassan became noticeably more agitated after his parents' death in 1998 and 2001. Another told of Hassan's complaints of being harassed and discriminated against at work because he was insane and an Islamic radical, because he was a practicing Muslim and had expressed his desire to leave the military. And yet another said that Hassan became appalled and turned against the U.S. after hearing stories from patients who had recently returned from Iraq and Afghanistan. About a month before the shootings, Hassan was notified that he would be deployed to Afghanistan and began to give away his belongings. He began visiting a gun range where he became proficient at hitting silhouette targets from up to 100 yards away. Okay, I mean, I just feel like,
100 yards, that's not really much.
It's like bare minimum, right? Like, an Army Sanity Board found Hassan sane and fit to stand trial. While the Department of Defense classified the incidents as workplace violence, the Senate report described the Fort Hood shooting as the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil since September 11, 2001. Media outlets noted that Hassan represented the most recent example of lone wolf terrorists self-radicalized by the internet. Hassan was found guilty and sentenced to death.
More of a happy ending.
Not crank her out. How long?
Oh, jeez. Dan is going to get so much hate from people who listen to this podcast.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yes, Elliot Rodger as the Asian singer for Linkin Park. Yeah, actually, Mike Shinoda is a Hapa, as just like Elliot Rodger was. So it's actually more appropriate, I guess. Okay, EL, well played, fair game. Jared Lee Laughner. On January 8, 2011, 24-year-old loner, in italics for whatever reason, Jared Lee Laughner appeared in a crowded supermarket parking lot in Tucson, Arizona, where Democratic Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords was holding a meet and greet for her constituents. Laughner opened fire on the crowd gathered there, killing 6 and wounding 13 others, including Giffords, who barely survived. Upon his arrest, Laughner, who appeared calm, said he pled the fifth and stated, "I just want you to know that I'm the only person that knew about this." When the FBI
read that on a note card with
yes,
on some FBI stationery.
When the FBI searched his house, they found bomb-making components locked away in a safe. It's a perfectly reasonable bomb-making components locked away in a safe that he didn't use. A friend of
I don't own a safe.
Yeah, I don't own a safe. I always want to know what they mean by bomb-making components. Because I feel like you could. I mean, I read
that can be found inside any golf ball.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, come on, man. Like, what do you mean? A friend of Laughner said he had. It's sort of like when someone gets arrested and they charge them with possession of burglary tools. What they mean is like a screwdriver. So
Laughner had a really terrible lawn, so he bought a lot of fertilizer.
Right, he like a lot though. Like a lot, and a box truck to carry it around in.
He was a responsible homeowner, was charged with heinous crimes.
Yeah. I'm going to say it again. Lush. That lawn was lush.
I'm going to have the best lawn of anybody in prison.
It's like hydroponically grown just in nitrogen-rich fertilizer. It's just got a tank of it. A friend of Laughner said he had a troubled home life and was constantly the brunt of his father's criticisms and anger about minor things. Others who knew him said that growing up, Laughner had been a talented musician, but was but was shy and had low self-esteem. Still, others described him as
we can make this band a
this.
reality.
It is gonna be the size of fucking Slipknot before we are done with this.
They're all musicians.
Yeah, but was shy and had low self-esteem. Still, others described him as generally a happy, friendly, well-liked, sweet, and caring kid. A number of people noted that in the years leading to the shooting, his personality changed drastically, and he just wasn't the same. Laughner became increasingly withdrawn, detached, weird, noticeably disturbed, someone you couldn't figure out, an oddball, a social outcast whose internal world had clearly gone awry.
Just a knucklehead.
Just
He's friends with Tim Walz, I hear.
A regular Tim Walz, exactly. After dropping out of high school in 2006, Laughner began working at Quiznos restaurant, volunteering in a local
restaurant's a stretch.
Actually, yeah, and honestly, I feel like working at Quiznos is probably a huge red flag for becoming radicalized.
Oh, they wouldn't let me into Blimpies.
Oh God, ugh. It's just naming low tier sandwich restaurants. But was dismissed from both because of a seeming inability to understand or comprehend instructions. Absolute fucking retard. He was arrested in 2006
You're
for
not
underage
Subway material.
No shit. Underage drinking, in 2007 for possessing marijuana and related paraphernalia. He could have just been fucking high though. Like, let's be real. According to a close friend, although who the fuck is sober working at a Quiznos? According to a close friend, when Laughner gave up drinking and smoking pot in late 2008, his theories got worse. He was just off the wall. He stopped hanging out with friends and devoted most of his time to sleeping in order to lucid dream, a topic he had become increasingly obsessed with. He faithfully kept a dream diary and developed a fascination with semantics and how the world is really nothing, illusion. He told his friend...
Now, how many right-wing schizo posters
have this level of dedication?
Yeah, and are really just... Like, if they took away X.com, how many more Laughners would we have on our hands?
I don't know, man. I would not. I would probably have a better social life if X did not. If the internet didn't exist, I'd have a way better social life. Let's be clear. Let's see. And told his friend that he'd come to the conclusion that the world had no meaning. Laughner attended a Giffords campaign question and answer event where he asked, if words could not be understood, then what does government mean? A question answered only by the silence of the room. Laughner felt that Gifford skirted his question, and in the years to come, occasionally expressed his dislike for her and his opinion that she was a phony. Oh my God!
Total phony death.
It's not even really. This is not a Gabe thing. This is more like a Will Smith's kid thing. Like that dude's it's like what if mirrors aren't real, then how are our eyes real?
How can your eyes see or something? Yeah,
exactly. In 2008, Laughner called the police to report somebody was impersonating him online, including having set up a fake MySpace account in his name with an accompanying picture of him. That same year, he attempted to join the army, but was rejected and deemed unqualified. One friend who had not seen Laughner since high school said that when they met again in 2010, his old friend had become anti-government and seemed radically different than before and asked random weird questions that didn't go together. In February, that's Gabe. In February 2010, Laughner enrolled in community college, where he often confused his teachers and classmates with meandering mumblings and random rants during class about the end of the world, government conspiracies, the monetary system, terrorism, and faked space flights.
Honestly, same.
Eventually, in September 2010, after becoming the subject of at least 51 campus public safety reports detailing 51. Oh my God. Detailing his strange and erratic behaviors, he was suspended from attending classes pending the results of a mental health evaluation. As he refused to do so, he did not return to school. Rather, he developed a sudden but strong interest in firearms, which he then started to purchase, including those he used in the shooting, and created and posted a number of disturbing YouTube, 2 words, videos, including one that claimed college was unconstitutional and one of the biggest scams in America. You are half right, my dude. Liberty. School suspension did not dampen his interest, and in a video he made just weeks before the shooting, Laughner told viewers, "My favorite activity is conscious dreaming, and the greatest inspiration for my political business information."
Demons are literally telling him to do this.
Some of you don't dream, sadly. My ambition is for informing literate dreamers about a new currency. In a few days, I'm conscious dreaming. Thank you. In another, Laughner accused the government of brainwashing the populace through grammar, religion, and false currency, and asked, as he had years earlier, what is government if words have no meaning? In yet another internet postings, Laughner announced, "There are important figures in my dreams: Hitler, Hillary, Clinton, and Giffords, to name a few," and described himself as a sleepwalker.
In no particular order.
Alarm clock. Yeah, in no particular order. Hey Jamie, when was the Bitcoin manifesto, Bitcoin white paper published first? Nor did his suspension from school temper his growing political obsessions. Besides his occasional rants about Giffords, he would also become enraged by images of George W. Bush, or when discussing what he considered to be the nefarious designs of government. He believed in conspiracy theories about the illegitimacy of the US dollar, the 9/11 attacks, the existence of the New World Order, and the impending 2012 apocalypse. Among the pictures he posted to his MySpace profile was a handgun placed upon a document titled United States History.
Actually, the white paper for Bitcoin came out Halloween 2008.
Okay, well, I was hoping that Laughner was actually Satoshi, but well, you can't have them all.
Maybe next time. If money isn't real, how come Bitcoin go up?
How come number go up? He posted to MySpace profile was a handgun placed upon a document. United States. All right.
I thought it was a fake MySpace profile.
At 4:12 a.m. on the morning of the shooting, Laughner's MySpace post stated, "Goodbye, friends. Please don't be mad at me. The literacy rate is below 5%. I haven't talked to one person who is literate. I want to make it out alive. The longest war in the history of the United States. Goodbye. I'm saddened with the current currency and job employment. I had a bully at school. Thank you. P.S. Plead the fifth." Laughner's arrest photo was quite disturbing, described by the Washington Post as smirking and creepy, with hollow eyes ablaze. When asked about his possible motives, a close friend said to promote chaos and compared Laughner's mindset to that of Batman's nemesis, the Joker, who fucks things up to fuck shit up. There's no rhyme or reason. He wants to watch the world burn. He probably wanted to take everyone out of their monotonous lives, to take people out of their norms that he thought society had trapped us in. Following his arrest, a court-appointed mental health professional diagnosed Laughner with paranoid schizophrenia and declared him incompetent to stand trial. He spent several months at a federal prison medical facility where he was forcibly administered a cocktail of psychotropic drugs, regained his sanity, and in August 2012 pled guilty to all charges against him, thereby avoiding the death penalty. Laughner was given 7 life sentences without parole, plus 140 years, and is incarcerated at the U.S. Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri.
Boy, they really pull out the red carpet for people who shoot senators and congresspeople.
Yeah, it's also they gave him the drug cocktail and all of the psychological treatment before he pled guilty.
Is Jolyon West dead? I think he is.
Yes. Jolly West is dead.
He died in 1999. Okay.
Yeah. Oscar Romero Ortega-Hernandez. On November 11th, 2011, 23-year-old Oscar Ramiro Ortega-Hernandez drove 2,000 miles from Idaho Falls, Idaho, in Washington, D.C., and fired at least 8 rounds from an AK-47 style semi-automatic assault rifle at the White House. He quickly drove away, but crashed ironically crashed in front of the United States Institute of Peace. Actually, that's just a coincidence. after which he fled on foot until 5 days later, authorities located and apprehended him in Indiana, Pennsylvania. He did not resist arrest.
This just became a bilingual bloodfest.
According to friends, burritos are... Carne is back on the menu, boys. According to friends, he had railed against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and talked about global positioning system chips injected into people by the federal government and their use of fluoride and aspartame to control Americans. On a number of occasions, he had told friends that he was on a mission from God. Oh my God, the Blues Brothers have inspired this violence to kill President Barack Obama, who he called the Antichrist and the devil. In March 2011, he purchased more than 1,200 rounds of ammunition, the firearm used in the shooting, and a scope kit. For the next 6 months, he practiced shooting in desolate areas near his home. That October, he made 2 videos that he posted on YouTube. In them, he described himself as a cold-hearted warrior of God, praised Osama bin Laden for standing up to the United States, called for revolution against the federal government, and announced it's time for Armageddon. During his trial, he pled...
I love that movie.
Dude, you know, I don't want to close my eyes. I don't want to fall asleep because I'll miss you.
And I don't want to miss a thing.
And I don't want to miss a thing. He pled not guilty and claimed that someone had stolen his car, that he did not shoot the White House, that his statement to that effect after his arrest were coerced by the Secret Service. Ortega-Hernandez...
This isn't where I parked my car.
Dude, where's my car? Ortega-Hernandez was found guilty.
Where's your Ryder truck, dude?
Sentenced to 25 years in prison for terrorism and related weapons offenses in order to pay $94,000 in restitution. I always wonder, like, how you're gonna pay that. Like, where do they expect you to get that money from?
Oh, you just
know what I mean?
A small personal loan.
Just a small personal loan, and all right, of $1 million. Alrighty, James Holmes. On July 20th, 2012, 24-year-old James Holmes, with newly dyed bright neon orange hair, wearing earphones, blasting techno music, dressed in full SWAT riot gear. Yeah, mixtape when?
Honestly, I'm starting to see... What was that one post where it's like, you know, high IQ people don't listen to music? Maybe he was onto something.
Oh my God, do you not listen to music?
No, I'm saying that you're more likely to commit a mass casualty event if you listen to music.
It's possible. I mean...
Jamie, pull that up.
Jamie, pull that up. Let me pull up those
the music statistics.
I don't know. I'm wearing headphones right now.
As am I.
Let's see. Yeah, I wonder what he was playing. I hope it was happy hardcore. It was just like a bunch of like nightcore remixes of Fiona Apple songs or something. Dressed in full SWAT riot gear, a gas mask, and wielding a virtual arsenal of guns. I think it would have been a literal arsenal. Entered a sold-out midnight premiere showing of the newest Batman movie, The Dark Knight Rises, in Aurora, Colorado. Also, some men just want to watch the world burn. Quoted about Jared Lee Laughner prior to the Dark Knight Rises coming out.
Yeah, no, that was in The Dark Knight.
Okay.
Yeah, nice try.
Nice try. You're right. I mean, look, I actually haven't seen the second two of them.
Boo this man in chat.
I haven't seen the second two of them. Yeah, W's in chat for not watching Cape Shit.
You don't like the bat slop?
Bat slop. No, sir. I only know the memes. Like, you're a big guy. Or you. All right. Just as the film's opening sequence of violence began, Holmes set off gas or smoke canisters and then opened fire on unsuspecting audience members, killing 12 and wounding 70 others. Upon his apprehension outside the theater, he did not attempt to resist arrest. Rather, he identified himself to authorities as Batman's long-standing nemesis, the Joker, and told police that he had placed booby traps around the apartment. As promised, investigators found his apartment loaded with a complex network of explosive booby trap devices, including homemade napalm, which, despite their sophistication, failed to go off. Probably shouldn't have worn them if you wanted them to go off. They also found Batman paraphernalia and other evidence of his apparent obsession with the comic book hero. Batman paraphernalia.
I can't wait for the guy.
How many people guilty of Project 2025 will make owning Batman paraphernalia punishable by losing your voting rights?
I want to know what happens when the guy who's inspired for J. Jonah Jameson gets caught, and then just inside his apartment,
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, or just
It's
pictures,
just pictures of Spider-Man. J.K. Simmons, yes. I admit to having watched the Sam Raimi Spider-Man film.
I mean, that's just classic cinema.
In elementary school, Holmes, who grew up in the upper middle class suburban home, was nice, well-behaved, polite, easy to get along with, popular, and extremely intelligent. He always helped to take care of the younger sister and, like McVeigh, entertained other kids in the neighborhood by building an amusing but not too scary haunted house during the Halloween season. Holmes himself later said that he became obsessed with killing when he was about 10 years old, an obsession, he said, which became more realistic for him over time. By high school, he had become, according to classmates and his former coach, a sullen, increasingly withdrawn, creepy, quiet loner, a kind of shadow figure, part of us but not part of us, hard to get to know and pretty invisible. During his senior year of high school in 2006, Holmes was an intern at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. You know he was vaxxed.
The man was a walking vaccine.
Where his supervisor described him as socially awkward, uncommunicative, and stubborn. Yeah, among vaccine researchers, known as socially awkward. He was diagnosed with depression and once became so frustrated that he pulled out his hair, so much that he was left with a bald spot on the back of his head.
Oh, no, he was Norwooding.
Norwooding so hard. Yeah, you got a natural baloney patch. After graduating high school, Holmes attended the University of California at Riverside, where in 2010 he studied neuroscience and graduated in the top 1% of his class. Letters of recommendation by his teachers described him as a very effective group leader and a person who takes an active role in his education and brings a great amount of intellectual and emotional maturity into the classroom. In 2011, he was accepted into a highly competitive neuroscience PhD program at the University of Colorado, Anschutz Medical School, and received a $21,600 grant from the National Institutes of Health and a $5,000 stipend from the University of Colorado.
I blame Fauci.
Fauci would have had to have approved that based on the time period. Just, Holmes, it turns out, had a long-standing interest in fantasy versus reality. In a home video made during this time, he explained to his peers at a science camp that he was working on the concept of temporal illusion, which is an illusion that allows you to change the past, and spoke of carrying on his mentor's interest in subjective experience, or what takes place inside the mind as opposed to the external world. The next year, however, his academic performance began to suffer. In the spring of 2012, he received poor grades on his comprehensive exams, and after failing critical oral exams in early June, chose to withdraw from the PhD program. Afterwards, he broke up with the only girlfriend he'd ever had, warning her to stay away from him because I'm bad news bears, and confiding that he thought he might be suffering from dysphoric mania, a kind of bipolar disorder, whose episodes one psychiatrist said, including getting this idea of doing something, and even if your mind tells you not to, your body moves you forward. I've experienced that when I'm about to lock keys inside of my car.
I've experienced that when I have to tell an inappropriate joke at Thanksgiving in front of my very liberal cousin.
when you just have to.
The little voice inside my head is a boomer.
Yeah, exactly.
Stay away from me, babe. I'm bad news bears.
My God. Uh-oh. Sorry.
But not the remake with what's his name? Not Woody Harrelson. Chat, tell me who I'm thinking of. Whatever.
There we go.
Are the bad news bears in the room with us?
Bad news bears in the room. All right.
Billy Bob Thornton. Thank you, Volpez.
French fried taters with mustard. He'd already tried that. In the months leading to Holmes's rampage, he sought help for his deteriorating mental health on several occasions from at least 3 campus mental health professionals. After he confessed to one of them that he wanted to kill people, the campus police were called, but they declined to hospitalize him. Great work, guys. In the weeks before and after withdrawing from his PhD program, Holmes legally purchased 2 Glock 22 pistols. Seriously?
Again.
What the? You have to go out of your fucking way to get a Glock chambered in 22.
Do you want a pistol? No, just something for my purse.
Exactly. A Remington 870 Express tactical shotgun. At least that is like the standard, right?
It's a virtual arsenal.
An M&P Smith & Wesson semi-automatic rifle. Okay, Babby's first AR. 6,350 rounds of various kinds of ammunition, and a Black Hawk urban assault vest. Less than a month before the killings, Holmes filled out an application to join a local gun club. The owner of the club said that when he attempted to call Holmes back, he heard bizarre, freaky, guttural, incoherent, and rambling voicemail like he was trying to be as weird as possible. Holmes was not admitted to the gun club.
That's a shame. Could have really turned his life around right there.
Absolutely.
He could have become good news.
He could. Well, he probably would have just gotten he probably would have gotten FUD pilled and started.
You need to carry a 1911, son.
You need to carry yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would have spent so much time. The one advantage of a 22 pistol versus a 1911 is that you don't spend like 99% of your time reloading. But weeks before the shooting, Holmes took a series of menacing selfies with his orange hair and wearing black contact lenses. The day before his rampage, he mailed his campus counselor a notebook in which he had repeatedly scrawled the question, why? The notebook detailed his internal debate about the best method of murdering a large amount of people and outlined the pros and cons involved in various methods under consideration, including old-fashioned serial killing, biological weapons, and bombs. He then debated the best locations for such an act, and while he considered an airport, ultimately decided that beyond the substantial security at an airport, they had too much of a terrorist history, and terrorism isn't the message.
I don't know. It's a little too Middle Eastern for my taste.
Yeah, it's a little brown for me. In fact, he wrote, the message is there is no message.
The medium is the message.
The medium is literally the message in this case. Yes. Most fools will misinterpret correlation for causation, namely relationship and work failures as causes. Both were expediting catalysts, not the reason. Causation being my state of mind for the past 15 years. That settled, he chose his target, concluding, finally, the last escape, mass murder at the theater. At the theater.
Honey, aren't you glad we have Netflix now?
Oh my God. No one would do this. No one would do this at a live performance because not enough people would be in the audience.
Ooh.
Although after what was fucking insanely stupid? When the Joaquin Phoenix Joker opened and everyone was like, oh my God, there's going to be a mass shooting.
Oh yeah, no, it was, people were really just, they wanted it to happen. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be terrible? Wink, wink.
Wouldn't it be terrible? Yeah. We wouldn't have anything to talk about.
That's exactly why no one went to go see the sequel.
Oh yeah, that's why. That's the reason. Although after his arrest, commentators remarked that Holmes was undoubtedly delusional. His bizarre behavior during the court appearances led some to question whether he was really crazy or just acting a part in order to evade execution. Holmes first pled not guilty, but after federal prosecutors announced their intention to seek the death penalty, he changed his plea to not guilty by reason of insanity and was ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluations. To the evaluating psychiatrist, he explained that at the time of his arrest, he was under the belief that he'd only killed 3 people and wounded 20, and described his victims as simply numbers, a conglomerate mass, not real people, just kind of amorphous people, whom he could barely see through the gas mask, except for one man whom Holmes said remained in the front row of the theater smiling at him right up until the end where he decided to stop shooting and calmly headed to his car. He would never forget that guy. Also, who is that guy? based smiling man. Where is he?
He dropped acid before the screening and thought it was part of it. Had no idea what was going on.
He was just like, wow, these 3D glasses are amazing. Those are just readers. When asked why he committed such an atrocity, Holmes explained that if you take away a life, it adds to your own value. Anything they would have done or pursued gets canceled out and given to me. A concept he said he'd drawn from economic theory. In the end, okay, bro.
Von Mises strikes again.
Yeah. In the end, he continued, it was either kill them or kill himself. Killing them jolted him out of his depression. Still, he added, he believed the feds had been following him in the weeks leading to the shooting and had hoped the FBI would arrest him and lock him away before he could carry out his meticulously calculated attack. It doesn't really seem that calculated.
Okay, so as a quick aside, right?
Yeah.
What's his name? Richard Syrett or Syrett. He's a coast to coast. He was a coast to coast fill-in for Art Bell in the early 2000s, and then he started his own podcast called I forget what it's called. It's changed names a few different times. I was just listening to his MK Ultra episode today, and they had a lot to say about Holmes. Apparently, he didn't know where he was, or basically, they think that he is an MK Ultra asset.
Oh, okay. I mean, plausible. Disney owned Marvel at the time. They've got deep pockets. They didn't want people going to DC movies.
Is this why we got Man of Steel?
Well, they also really, almost as much as Sandy Hook almost precipitated a slew of new Obama era gun laws. So,
well, we're about to get to him.
Yeah, Obama.
He's heavily featured.
He's in here. Book. Yeah. Killed that cook he was fucking.
Oh bummer.
He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, delusional psychosis, as well as schizoaffective, borderline narcissistic, anxious, avoidant, and obsessive compulsive personality disorders. But despite this, and despite his smearing feces on the walls of his prison cell, was found legally sane and sentenced to 12 life sentences plus 3,318 years. During his trial, Holmes, on a cocktail of antipsychotic medication, remained emotionless and declined to speak in his own defense.
I've been on antipsychotics before, and they make you emotionless.
Have you?
No.
Yeah. Me either. Actually, not.
Wink.
Actually,
Wink.
Not either. Yeah. All right. Wade Michael Page. Unfortunately, Holmes was only one in what would be a long series of deranged acts committed by fantasy-prone lone gunmen that year and the 2 years following. On August 15th, 2012, 41-year-old Wade Michael Page entered into a Sikh temple in Wisconsin, shot and killed 6 individuals and wounded 4 others before killing himself. Page, a former Army psychological operations specialist until 1988, had a history of bad conduct while in the Army and was very vocal about his white supremacist beliefs. The Southern Poverty Law
literally into psyops
had been monitored. Yeah, he was literally doing psyops, and the SLPC had been monitoring his based online ramblings for 12 years prior to the shootings. All right.
Had that slip in there. Anyway.
Adam Lanza. Just actually, I as I recall, he had also, maybe it was this one or maybe it was a Sikh temple shooting in Canada where it happened. But one of them thought that they were Muslims. Which narcissism of small differences, maybe, but at least be right.
Sikhs keep getting the short end of the stick
as far as that goes. Yeah. Adam Lanza. This a shockingly small segment on Adam Lanza. Just a few months later, on December 12th, 2012, 20-year-old Adam Lanza shot his mother with her .22 caliber rifle while she lay in bed. 22 all the time. Took her car. When they say .22 caliber rifle, are they?
I think they mean like AR. .22 LR. Yeah.
No, this was a 20. No, Adam Lanza used an AR. It was
Okay, so is it possible that Wendy doesn't
mean,
know what she's talking about?
223 is 22 caliber, but you wouldn't refer to an AR as 22 caliber even. I mean, I guess it's technically right. Maybe she just doesn't want to add to like the AR mania.
Listen, guys, if you're gonna go do this, you want to use a 22. That's like
all the other ones. Actually, every other time they mentioned 22, it's been a revolver or a pistol. So, like, this is the only time where it would have been an AR. And she referred to the Smith and Wesson M&P semi-auto, which is an AR. Anyway, whatever. Took her car, drove to nearby Sandy Hook Elementary School, fired 154 shots with a semi-automatic rifle, presumably the same one, killed 6 adults and 20 children, and then killed himself. All of the firearms used in the massacre were legal and registered to his mother. Classmates described the pale, tall, scrawny. How could she possibly have allowed him to get control of those? She should be prosecuted.
No, we got Alex Jones. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. God, fucking. Classmates described the pale, tall, scrawny, and autistic Lanza as a wicked smart kid who excelled in everything. And graduated.
Well, this was Connecticut, so they probably did talk like
they probably literally
did. Was wicked smart.
Yeah. Earlier than the rest of his class, but also kind of weird, socially awkward, shy and quiet, remote, a recluse, and nearly unknowable individual who had a turbulent childhood. His parents' separation, they said, had hit the Lanza children hard. And Lanza, in particular, seemed really depressed and even devastated by it. Taunted by bullies at school and in the neighborhood, Lanza spent a lot of time in his mother's basement playing modern warfare video games, including, among others, Call of Duty, presumably Modern Warfare. Even as a small child, one relative remembered Lanza dreamed of joining the U.S. Marine Corps. He had a keen interest in aliens and sometimes talked about blowing things up. Let's be real. A small child interested in the Marines, aliens, and blowing things up is all completely normal, right? Like, that's not weird. A search of the Lanza home revealed that he lived amid a stockpile of disparate weaponry and macabre keepsakes, including a military-style uniform and newspaper clippings of other mass shooters, in his attempts to outkill the Norway nut job.
No, I can't excuse Stolen Fowler, Adam.
Like them, Lanza, Lanza, obscure in life, became infamous in death. This is a pretty short segment for Lanza. There is a lot more on
I think that she's probably waiting for time to kind of pass on that.
Of course.
Because there's still a smoke screen around.
Also, she probably doesn't want to get fucking sued.
Like her hero, Alex Jones.
Yeah. In the following year, on September 16th, 2013, 34-year-old African-American and former naval reservist Aaron Alexis arrived in Washington, D.C. Actually, you know what's really weird? None of these, she did not include the D.C. snipers.
Yeah, that is a weird one. I was listening to a podcast that went over them, and there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Or who was that one guy that had a bunch of kids in a compound and was trying to train them for ISIS or something in Arizona?
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, that one got hushed up real quick.
Wow, that is. I mean, yeah, I want to know all about that. That sounds amazing.
Jamie, pull that up.
The following year, on September 16th, 2013, 34-year-old African-American and former naval reservist Aaron Alexis arrived at a Washington, D.C. Naval Yard, where he worked as a contractor servicing the Navy's internet system in the Navy Sea Systems Command building. First using an .870 Remington sawed-off shotgun and then a Beretta handgun taken from a security guard whom he shot, Alexis opened fire, methodically killing 14 people and wounding 4 others. When officers arrived, a firefight ensued during which Alexis himself was killed. Alexis is an exception to the fact that mass shooters have overwhelmingly been young white males, though discontented Muslims in the military are seemingly a growing threat. Okay, I am going to...
Fed post?
I'm going to say it depends on how you define a mass shooting. If you define it,
Yes,
yeah,
the sailor pill.
if it is the FBI's definition of a mass shooting, then it is which is 4 injuries, which is 4, I believe it's 4 injuries or deaths. No, sorry. It is 4 or more deaths in a single incident, not including the perpetrator. Then it's overwhelmingly black men.
Okay,
Like
all right.
it's overwhelmingly young black men. And
So
the people they are shooting are overwhelmingly they ops. So
in Amalia, New Mexico, in the United States, in the summer of 2018, on a remote site with a small camping trailer within a surrounding wall of car tires, 5 adults, 11 hungry children ages 1 to 15, and later a dead child were found. Court documents stated that children had been trained for shooting at schools. Federal terrorism, kidnapping, and firearms charges were brought against 5 adults in March 2019.
what the fuck? Yeah, I want to know all about that. I want to read the court documents on that. Actually, we gotta send that over to me, and we'll.
Yeah, I've only got.
We will deal with.
I've only got a CNN article and a Times of Israel article on this.
Wow. Okay. Yep. We're gonna find the court docs on that. Okay. Although described as a polite kid, and but if obviously you mean mass shootings as, I don't know, I mean probably if you set the number higher or something, then it would skew towards white, but yeah, mass shootings are actually overwhelmingly black, just like most violent crime in the United States. Although although described as a polite kid and typical teenager, throughout his adult life, Alexis displayed disturbing, bizarre, and alarming behaviors. In 2004, at the age of 25, Alexis had walked out of his grandmother's house and, later claiming to be frustrated over the parking situation there, shot 3 rounds from a .45 caliber pistol at the car of a nearby construction worker. He later explained to police that he had PTSD and blacked out, and only later remembered shooting at the car. His troubles, he told them, began when he participated in rescue and recovery operations in Manhattan on September 11, 2001.
Whoa.
In 2007, Alexis joined the Naval Reserves, where he fixed electrical systems on airplanes. Despite being awarded a National Defense Service Medal and a Global War on Terror Medal while in the reserves, he displayed a pattern of misbehavior and was cited for misconduct at least 8 times before receiving an honorable discharge in 2011.
Okay, all right. So as for those 2 medals, those are just participation medals. You got those because the National Defense Service Medal is a medal that you get for enlisting during a time of war. And the war happened to be the global war on terror.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then you got the specific one for the GWAT.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
sort of like everyone gets a theater medal.
The National Defense Service Medal is also known as the ketchup stain because it's got. Anyway, it not exactly a. She's not saying here what she thinks she's saying.
Got it. Yeah.
Do we want to wrap up this paragraph and then we'll do the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like it's the Congressional Medal of Honor or anything.
Right.
How many more do we have? We are so close. We've got we've got like 2 more pages before we're completely through the catalog.
But I do have a hard out in like 15 minutes. But
okay, always Hudson.
Hey, we went pretty far this time.
We did plan on 3 hours though.
We said 2.5.
I believe I said 3. Anyway, it's fine. Let's not be bitches. All right, let's see. Pattern of misbehavior and was cited for misconduct at least 8 times before receiving an honorable discharge in 2011. Such misbehavior carried into his personal life as well, and once in 2010, he fired a handgun into his ceiling, the bullet penetrating the upstairs neighbor's floor. He told the police he accidentally fired while cleaning his gun. After his negligent discharge and after his discharge from the service, Alexis retained his secret level security clearance, which allowed him to do sensitive military work for the Experts, a contracting company that serviced the Navy's internet system. His job kept him on the road and living in hotels, and in the 7 months prior to his final shooting, Alexis worked at 7 different military bases in a number of states. Friends said that during the summer of 2012, Alexis became increasingly depressed, withdrawn, and suffered from insomnia, and compared him to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. After one bout of prolonged insomnia that kept him awake for 3 days, he sought treatment at 2 different VA hospitals. In August 2012, the Newport, Rhode Island Police Department issued a report sent to a local naval base where Alexis had been cleared to work, warning that he suffered from hallucinations and was hearing voices. His employers took no action, but after made inquiries and finding him to be unstable, planned to recall him. Alexis held increasingly obsessive belief that he was being targeted, controlled, or influenced by extremely low frequency ELF, electromagnetic waves. About a month and a half before the Naval Yard shooting and weeks before the police issued their warnings, Alexis called 911 and 911, sorry, and reported he was hearing, reported he was hearing voices of 3 individuals emanating from the walls, floors, and ceiling of his Rhode Island hotel room. He told the dispatcher that the voices which were keeping him awake belonged to individuals who were following him and were being deployed from some sort of microwave or machine.
No, microwave machine.
Yeah, exactly.
So like Gulf War syndrome or Havana syndrome.
Yep. Alexis said he was afraid of people who were going to hurt him. In a letter found on his laptop after the shooting, Alexis wrote, "Ultra low frequency attack is what I've been subject to for the last 3 months. And to be perfectly honest, that is what has driven me to this." On the Remington he used during the attack, Alexis had carved the words, "My elf weapon, end the torment, not what y'all say, and better off this way." While often used in subtonal submarine communications, various news outlets pointed out that among conspiracy theorists, ELF denotes a technology deployed by the government to harass, monitor, and manipulate individuals, a growing number of whom believe, like Alexis, that they are targeted individuals, or TIs. Just like
what was his
Justin
name?
Moan's stalkers,
right?
Like
or
stalkers.
Who was the guy in Program to Kill? Not Davis, Reynolds, maybe, I don't know. Who
thought he was getting gang stalked?
Well, that one, but he also thought, or like he said that he was trained in the Florida Everglades.
Fuck. It's been almost. I literally read.
Williams, Ray Williams, or something like that.
I read
There's
Program
3 names
to Kill like years ago, so I don't recall all of them. All right.
Dave would know.
Paul and he just wrote it. He just read it, right? Paul Anthony Ciancia. On the morning of November 1st, 2013, 23-year-old Paul Anthony Ciancia, armed with a Smith & Wesson .223 caliber assault rifle.
Okay, so she knows the difference between a 22
and a .223. Yeah.
So maybe she just
not an assault rifle, and yeah.
So maybe she picked that up from just news reports, and they got it wrong on the ground.
Possible, yeah. And carrying hundreds of rounds of ammunition, arrived at the Los Angeles International Airport and entered a terminal. All right, hundreds of rounds of ammunition. I just want to say, every single time someone says that, that's like a normal mag. That's like a filled normal mag carrier, right? Because you got 30 rounds in every mag. Like it's hundreds of rounds. Like you hit 200 real quick. So,
it's also pretty heavy.
Well, it's not light, but a few hundred rounds is like
not that much.
It's 7 mag changes.
Yeah.
So, arrived in the Los Angeles International Airport and entered a terminal where he had apparently stashed a rifle and 3 magazines. And then, in an eerie and methodological methodological manner. He began shooting Transportation Security Administration agents, killing one and wounding at least 7 other individuals, both civilian and TSA. Soon after his rampage began, if he hadn't hit civilians, I'm just saying,
it would have been more of like a
get this line moving.
Bonnie and
Get this line
Clyde
moving. Yeah. It's like,
you know
what? I don't disagree with your target, but you didn't need to go that far. Soon after the rampage began, two LAX airport neutralized. Two LAX airport, I'm going to just say they missed the word security, neutralized Ciancia by shooting him 4 times, including in the face. Ciancia, who stared into space during his arrest, was sedated upon his detainment and for days remained unresponsive. Towards the end of that month, Ciancia was released from the hospital and taken to a treatment facility to complete his recovery. In March 2014, he was transferred to a federal detention facility to await trial, and in January 2015, prosecutors announced that they would seek the death penalty against him. According to law enforcement officials, the duffel bag Ciancia carried with him during the killing spree contained anti-government literature outlining conspiracy theories, this very book, and a one-page manifesto that exclaimed, "F you, Janet Napolitano," former chief of Homeland Security, whom he described in it as a bull dyke.
He'd hate to curse in his manifesto.
No kidding. In his writing, Ciancia detailed his disappointment in the government, railed against the TSA's intrusive airport security searches and other government violations of privacy, and spoke of a fiat currency, the illegitimacy of the Federal Reserve, and the abuses of the NWO, a term countless media outlets referred to the New World Order, a conspiracy theory that foresees a totalitarian one-world government run by secret elites bent on sabotaging American freedoms. Ciancia expressed that while he had made the decision to try and kill TSA and pigs in order to instill fear in their traitorous minds, and didn't care if they were black, white, yellow, brown, I don't discriminate, he had no interest in hurting innocent people. Witnesses to the shooting noted he seemed to target only TSA agents. Okay, all right, well, maybe he's just a bad shot.
Listen, I might hate the TSA, but I am no bigot.
I am not yeah.
Which we know is the worst crime.
The worst crime, yes, worse than shooting people. Wrong think. A local police officer in the blue-collar New Jersey town where Ciancia grew up, who knew his family, told reporters that Ciancia came from a very good family. Whatever happened, it had nothing to do with his upbringing.
Friends of ours.
Yeah. Those who knew Ciancia remembered him as a shy, quiet, and awkward teenager who played French horn.
Again, music. Music is the root of all this crap.
Yes, dressed in all black, seemed to have a speech impediment, and was bullied in high school. One classmate, "I don't have a speech impediment. I'm just Italian.
I'm going to go shoot the airport.
I'm going to the airport." One classmate said to Ciancia he kept to himself and ate lunch alone a lot. "I really don't remember any one person who was close to him. In 4 years, I have never heard a word out of his mouth. He was quiet, and people would take advantage of that." Many others stated that Ciancia had never shown signs of anger and acted out violently and had no previous mental health issues, although they added, something seemed to have come over him in the years after graduating high school, perhaps set off by the death of his mother in 2009. Italians got strong relationships with their mothers. Mama, where'd you go? And so informed their fathers. Days before the shooting, Ciancia's brother received a text from him stating he was thinking of taking his life, and so informed their father, who, the morning of the shooting, unable to locate or contact his son, called the Los Angeles police and requested they check on him. But by then, it was too late.
All right, and I think we need to close it there.
All right. Okay, folks. Chat.
Give us your comments and your questions. And
your comments and questions.
And money. Don't forget the money.
And I guess you can actually need super chats now.
Yes.
So pay for my StreamYard premium subscription and my copy of Aberration in the Heartland of the Real. If you would be so kind.
And I promise that every dollar that I receive will go to anti-Tuki's propaganda.
God damn it. God damn it. We let him inside the house. We let a woman join the organization.
Oh man, that's gonna sting for a while.
All right. So I guess we don't have anything big to add. I appreciate everyone joining us. We will be back live at 5
next 2 weeks. No, I'm away next week, remember?
We're away next week, so it'll be in 2 weeks, and you will hear us then. So enjoy.
We will not walk in fear one of another. We will not be driven by fear into an age of unreason if we dig deep in our history and our doctrine, and remember that we are not descended from fearful men, not from men who feared to write, to associate, to speak, and to defend the causes that were for the moment unpopular. We must not confuse dissent with disloyalty. Good night.